Bryan Charnley was a British artist born the 20th of September 1949, who suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and exploited effects in his work. He was diagnosed and got into a school of art the same year, and he was able to complete the course, but later on he got into the Central School of Art in London, one of his many dreams. But unfortunately, years later, because of his disorder, he had a mental breakdown and was unable to continue his study there, and had to be admitted into a psychiatric hospital. When Bryan got out, he drew a lot of photorealism. He enjoyed conceptual art and made a lot of painting about the streets in London and large-scale flowers. Many historians think that he was doing that kind of artworks because in the time he was in the hospital, he couldn't see the beauty of London. One day, he decided to stop medicating himself for his schizophrenia. For this reason, in July 1991, he took his own life. Without his pill, he was too absorbed in his mental disorder. He got the idea of doing a series of self-portraits to see if, without the medication, there would be any difference between the artworks. The one you're seeing right now is the first self-portrait. It's realistic and it's in neutral colors, two aspects that are going to change a lot in the next paintings. Not only that, but in every portrait, he makes an explanation of why he did his portrait like that and how he felt doing that in that moment.
In this self-portrait, we can see how the author already drew himself in a different way, as he said he was already in a very paranoid phase. We can see it in how the eyes that we find to the right of the painting describe it. He tells us that it was a look of the person who had him in a state of crucifixion of the ego. As well as we also observe the large rabbit ear located to the left of the painting, since he tells us that at the moment he was sensitive and confused about human voice as a kind of wild animal. In this self-portrait, the author was already lowering his dose of the medication, and this time Bryan defining himself as a target for the people since they dedicated rude comments to him, and this time his psychiatrist had ordered him not to speak to anyone. We see how he has a nail in his mouth. This has a symbol that these same people did not forgive him since he had been very rude to them, and this made him stop socializing, which led him more to misfortune. The nail in his eye shows how his illness does not allow him to see the world and how he no longer likes love.
This self-portrait was made on April 23, 1991. It is a chaotic artwork full of spots of color with a face in the center. The author tries to represent his constant feeling that people look at him and speak, hence the colored spot that is people around him. He believes people listen to what he thinks and hate him for it. This self-portrait was made one day later. The author seeks to represent this agony, fears, insecurities, his illness in general. Although this work is not very figurative, we can identify a pipe, blood on his forehead, a sad mouth, and a happy one. It is an artwork without a background, perspective, shadows. It has no technical complexity and much simpler than some of his collection. Most of the colors are dark, probably representing what he was feeling, and what is more striking is that the drop of the blood are real.
From 10th of May he had reduced his medication. What he represents in the painting is his brain as an enormous mouth, acting independently of him. The foot is pushing the mouth open for the thought to be broadcast. Again, the nail in the mouth expresses his social ineptitude and an inability to socialize, which make him a target. Still, he feels that he's giving off a strong personality vibration, hence the wavy lines emanating from his head. In this case, he was tired of explaining his painting because he felt that it was very easy to know what he wanted to convey. He used the blue color because he felt sad when he left the medication. The wavy lines are because he felt safe. He was pleased because he was able to express such a purely mental concept as thought broadcasting by the simple device of turning the brain into a mouth that he painted again. At this stage, his central worry was thought broadcasting. After this painting, he continued his retreat from social contact.
In this self-portrait, the author represents himself as two empty eggs, surrounded by mouths and crows. When the artist talks about this artwork, he explains that he feels miserable as people approach him knowing gossip about his past. He feels vulnerable as he doesn't know anything about theirs to get back to them. He represents himself as an egg that has been emptied of its content. He tells us that there's nothing left, that all the secrets are gone to satisfy someone else's appetite. He feels exposed and powerless. At this point, he was already having suicidal thoughts. At this stage, we can see how the self-portraits have become less and less representative, moving away from the human figure altogether. The explanation he gave on this particular painting is just as abstract as the artwork itself. He feels as an open door that everyone could walk through, representing the people as a giant foot trying to get in. He mentions in the comment he left the nailed mouth and tied tongue, as he has no effective reply to the people who come to him. He feels as he can't say anything.